Welcome back to the video, guys. Thank you so much for joining in again. Previously, we talked about reading various files using Java. We looked at files like JSON, CSV, images, and then all that. And I also walked you guys through the coding example of how to read those files. And in this video, I'm gonna be focusing on writing file. So I have the same program from the previous video, and if you see, I have the package called file writer, and this package has all of the code that are related to writing files. As a demonstration, I'm gonna be going over two types of file writer here. One of them gonna be a text file writer, and other gonna be image file writer. We are going to be doing something slightly different in image file writer. We're going to be reading an existing image, and we're going to rotate that image and then write that image back to the disk. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So as I mentioned earlier, file writer app this is the entry point of all the file writing operation. As you see, this is also implementing runnable and has the run method, because if you remember from the last video, we are passing this to executor service so that they can run concurrently. So in here, I got source image file. If you want to look at the source image file, this is how it looks like, an old house. And I also have here a text file. So text file, if I go up, this is the text file. Writing out file called text output.txt. This is the file we're going to be writing out. And then for the image file, we are going to be writing out that output.png file. So currently, if you look at the folder, there is no output file, and they will be generated once I run the program. So before I run the program, I want to go over this code section here. So basically, text file writer, image file writer, I have the writer, custom file writer. It is an interface, and both of those two writer are implementing this interface. And then I'm basically calling write method on them. And again, the write method is void, so we don't have to worry about anything. So let's jump into text file writer here. So text file writer, basically, here we go. So we have this string representation of record object, and that is basically a string. So we have this one right here, array list, and then basically if you look at here, we are creating a record object. So there is one record object, and I'm adding those record object back to this string, list of a string actually. And then let's see, there's another record object here I created, and adding them back to this list of string again. And then finally, if you look at here, this is the most important part. We are using buffer writer. Again, if you guys remember from the reading file videos, we were using a buffer reader. In this case, we are using buffer writer with file writer in it. And before it was buffer reader with file reader in it. So it's kind of opposite way, but it's the same thing. And then the reason for the buffer, and this is also tied with resources, just to kind of mention that. And then if you look at here, this buffer writer, basically writing the string, it's just picking one string off of this list of string and writing them in here. And also, I want to mention this, the new line here. This is basically what we want to do. Once we write the string from here, we also want to add a new line to our file. So this basically writes a string, writes the new line, and it does it until it writes all of the string from this list. So that's pretty much a text file writer. Now we're going to go back to image writer, and then image writer is going to be pretty interesting one here. So let's look at that here. One thing I want to mention here on the text file writer, see, these are the object like that. If you have anything that needs to be write to a file, you can do that. this way. So let's go back to custom file writer here and file writer app. So we're going to control click that image file writer, and in here this one is slightly different. It's taking two input path and output path. Input path is the path of the images we will be reading, and then output path is the path of the images that we'll be writing. So in here I got the source image input path, so I'm creating buffer image out of the input path, and then I'm passing that buffer image to this method called rotate, and that will give me back my rotated buffer image. And then now what I'm doing is I got the output file here. I'm just initializing file object, and then basically what I'm doing using image IO again, static method write, and I'm writing out that buffer image to this file right here. And at the end I'm just basically like printing out saying like, hey, writing file success. The reason for that is this image IO.write method returns true if the file writing process is successful, and it will return false if it failed for any reason. And then just trying to catch any exception if there's going to be any. The main thing happens here in the rotate method here. It takes the source buffer image, and then basically what we're doing here is that if you look at that, so check it out. So this is for loop inside for loop. So as you see here, we're getting the RGB value. So we're basically saying like, hey, get me RGB value of this location IJ. And then what we're doing here is basically getting the RGB value from I and J location and putting the RGB value back to J and I location. That's just basically from IJ to JI. That is what we're flipping here, and that caused the image to rotate. So that's pretty much all it is. So let's go ahead and run this application, and when this application finishes running, you will see the output images here and output text file here. So let's go ahead and do that. Before doing that, I'm gonna have to go ahead and just comment out one thing, file reader here, because we already went over that, so we don't really need it. I can leave it there, but that file reader takes a while to run it, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out of there. So let's go ahead and run this application, and we'll see those images generated here, and then the text file, image and text file. All right, it's running here. Basically it says writing file using text file writer class and writing file using image file writer class, and writing file status true. That means everything went good. Let's go back to our folder we talked about. So there is, well, my IntelliJ might be running slow, so what I'm gonna do, I am going to go ahead and open this in Finder here. I'm gonna pull this up here. Well, I don't have to, it was just taking a little bit longer, so it's already here. So let's open up this output here. If I double click, and I'm gonna zoom in just to show you guys. See, it is rotated and with 90 degrees. So if I put it, show you guys the original image, it was like this, and then after we rotate, we got images like this. And here, that's for the images. And let's look at the text file. Here we have text underscore output.txt. If I open that up, this is the record object that we created, and we write this object back to the file. So if we go to file writer here, basically text file writer, so we had two record object that we, record object 1, record object 2, and then those two record object were returned to this file right here. So that's pretty much all for file writer. Thank you so much for watching. Next video, we're going to be looking at database. I'm probably going to look at some cloud database, a free one, and then kind of show you guys how to query a table in database. Probably going to look at CRUD operations. So I'm very excited, and I will see you guys in next video. Thank you for watching.